Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to this week's From the Bench. Our first guest of 2023 is Marie Kelzer. Marie Kelzer fell in love with making paste papers in the late 1980s while working in the bookbinding and preservation field. Her bookbindings, artworks, and paper creations are handmade using her individually painted paste papers. Her designs and artist books are exhibited and collected worldwide. Marie is part of the Paper Legacy collection at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. 60 of her paste papers, along with tools and biographical papers, are at the Watson Library there. Born and raised on a dairy farm in Minnesota and having lived mostly in San Francisco, she now resides near the positive ocean ions in Los Angeles. Thank you so much for being with us, Marie. And you have the floor.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming, for listening to what I have to say. Thanks for inviting me, Sarah. So what you see now is my workspace. This is, I've had many workspaces over the years, but what I find the most helpful in a workspace is counter space. So I have a lot of counter space, so I love that. I wanted to just run by briefly why I'm here. I grew up on a dairy farm, and I graduated from college as a social worker. And I worked in different kinds of factories during the summer. Soft soap and Tonka toys and pots and pans, and I loved it. I loved working in factories. I loved starting from the beginning, having something, and ending afterwards and having a finished product. So consequently, I went to North Carolina to volunteer as a VISTA volunteer. So I was there for 1 year, and I met the love of my life, Joan, and I moved to California, and that's how I got involved in making paste papers, working in preservation departments, selling at fairs, and doing all that kind of stuff. And my first love is paste papers. Everything goes from there. So I'd like to show you the slideshow, and afterwards I could also show you what kind of papers I decorate onto, what kind of materials I use. So let me go to the slideshow. All right, I made it to the slideshow.
Hooray!
Sorry, it took so long there, but this is a blast from the past. San Francisco Examiner in 1992. I studied under Ann Colley when I was working at UC Berkeley in their preservation department. And I learned how to bind books from the beginning. Whereas in the preservation department, I repaired books, and in the library, in the library bindery, I just made books on machines. So I got my first taste with her, and I made my first paste paper on a piece of craft paper and with wheat paste. And the picture below is my studio in San Francisco, where I was making tons of blank journals and selling them at fairs and doing that kind of stuff. This is when I was preservation manager at San Francisco Public Library, and these are the book boys, which probably a lot of you know, but they really educated us about bookbinding and libraries and things like that. So it was kind of fun to have them run over a book and bring it to us. So that's that. This is my studio right now. This is probably the best place I've had because of the counter space, and also I have a lot of IKEA stuff in here. So I have the aqua bookcase, which is I put my press boards on the other side, and I can rearrange it. And the table behind it is just IKEA tabletops, and then spacers in between. So everything else is there that, I need as a bookbinder, and flat files and cut trimmers and all that kind of stuff. And these are my storage areas. This is IKEA cabinets. The drawers just come right out and you can put all kinds of stuff in it. This is my another cabinet with all these baskets. They work terrific. I love them. And this is where I decorate papers. In my kitchen, I have a island that is 8 feet long and 20 or 2.5 feet wide. So I just put an acrylic piece on top of it, clamp it on, and just decorate away. And this is when I was in San Francisco, and I had custom built a drying rack in the back, but I ended up not taking that with me when I moved to Marina Del Rey. I now dry my papers on the floor, which works just great. These are some of the tools that I use. You paper makers out there, there's a lot more tools, and it's just kind of fun. The rollers, the combs, the mini car wheels, they're all fun. This is a pastry roller that I bought at a estate sale in San Francisco, and they were like 10 in a box, and I don't need them all, but this introduced me to the squares, which I love. And this is a faux comb, and it is the best comb because it is made out of rubber. So if you have the right consistency with the paint and paste, you can make any kind of design. This is I grew up on a dairy farm, so that's what I did. I baked and I cooked and I did all of that. And so this cookie cutter makes great designs. And I use this for my parents' 75th anniversary book. This is another rubber-based squeegee type thing, and this also makes great designs. And let's not forget the brushes you use to begin with. I never pre-wet my paper. I always just put my brush in the paint mixture, and then just brush it on. And you can just make a design with brushes by making squares or cross hatches or whatever. And then what you paint over, it comes up from underneath.
Marie,
Yes?
may I ask you to give a brief description of what paste papers are? I feel like this might be a good time for it, just with that last slide. Some of our attendees maybe aren't so sure.
Okay.
I know that's a big question.
No, paste papers. I guess I thought that people knew what paste papers is, but this is the reason why I'm here, actually, to spread the word about paste papers. Paste papers are a decorative paper. Unlike marble paper, they are painted by mixing a paste mixture with acrylic paints. Now, the paste mixture I use is methylcellulose. And I had attended a class with Claire Mazarazik, and she introduced me to using methylcellulose. Some people use a wheat paste or rice paste, but I mix the methylcellulose and the acrylic paints together, and then I use brushes to brush on the paint mixture. And then you use tools to spread it across to make any kinds of designs. How does that sound?
Great, thank you.
Okay. So this is another one with the grid pattern, and I use a stamp over it. Pastry rollers, which I just discovered within the last 10 years. They are wonderful because, you know, they can make any kind of designs. These are all clay rollers that are, they can be wooden or rubber. This is another clay roller that I love. It gives me the impression of raindrops. This is another design where I splatter on paints on a paper, and then I crunch up a heavyweight paper and just smudge it in. And this is kind of the effect that you get with that. I keep track of all the designs that I make, probably my background in being in libraries. And you know, all the colors I use, all the paints, what it takes to which steps, and I do that so I can make them again if I like them. This is another design where I took the paste paper that I made and I cut it into strips, and then I put it on a black piece of paper. So it just gives a little depth. You can do all kinds of things with paper, and I'm always trying to figure out, because I have so many paste papers, what to do with them, as I think other people are too. This is a splatter design. Just throw paint on the paper and maybe fold it over a little bit on each other. And then I put this into Photoshop and clicked on swirl, and this is what I got. I've had a number of articles and publications. This is a one from Cloth Paper Scissors, just trying to educate people about paste papers. This is when I was dropping off my papers to Mindy Dubansky at the Met at the Watson Library. And I was really thrilled and humbled to be included in the collection of over 55 artists that also produced this book, which if you don't have it yet, it has a lot of very visual, interesting papers inside of it. And also it's very well written about paper makers from the 60s to the 2000s. I have lots and lots of scraps. I have lots of paper, so I have lots of scraps when I'm making books and all kinds of products. So I do sell these scraps, and it's the most difficult thing to produce, trying to decide what to put in a bag and how many colors or whatever. But it's one way of using them up. I also do cards. It's everybody probably does cards too. I do a limited edition calendar. I take a sheet of paper and I cut it into 16 pieces. So it's limited edition of 16. So each different paper per month and a different one for each year. I've been doing them since 2005. I've also, since 2002, have been doing paste paper pattern books. There's 50 original designs in each book. And I also list the tools that I use to make the designs. And these are limited to an edition of 18, as I could get 18 off of a sheet of paper, 19 by 25. These are the covers of them. This is them all stacked up. When I do the signatures, I also print or do the design in InDesign, and then I print them, and then I interleave blank pages in between, because I will tip in the paste papers and that will give them room. And so it's a stub binding. This is tipping in the paper, and after I have cut the pages out to have stubs. This is just one of the spreads that I printed in, I did in InDesign and printed on an Epson. I've done a few books with Suntup, with Paul Suntup. I did the cover for this one, paste paper cover. I did over 300 sheets, which was quite a bit. And as you know, not every sheet is exactly alike, but you do your best. And I think I got most of them to look alike. I also did Handmaid's Tale for Suntup, and this is a slipcase, and I didn't have to do as many papers, which was great. And I also have a few other books that I've done end papers. Right now, what I'm doing is I got into Coptic sewing as opposed to sewing on the frame. And so I sell my books at two 10 women galleries here in San Francisco, and I sell them to book arts organizations and stores and other retail businesses. And these are, I also do a number of printed books that I sell. This is the Desiderata, which was hanging on my refrigerator for, well, since the 70s, and I decided to make it in a book. I take a 11 by 17 piece of paper, and I print on the front and back, and then I fold it up, and this is what it ends up being.
Marie, is that a paste paper covered pencil?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I've been doing those for a while. Those are one of the earlier things. It's very satisfying covering pencils.
I bet.
I have to tell you, you know. So, and this is a paste paper pattern series where I weaved paste paper in between covers and inside the book. This one I did on, I did different colors. So, you know, the blacks, blues, greens, oranges, and reds. And the paper I used was a 80-pound cover paper. And so I just folded it on itself, and then I weaved the pages, and they kind of look like this. So that's what I did with that. I also did designs in dots, lines, shapes, and textures, which I also used the 80-pound cover paper, and I folded on itself. But in this one, I kind of have it spread all out and sew the pages in between and weave all the paper inside and out. So these projects are a great way to use up paste paper. So that was my goal, basically, and to make a nice product, I guess. In the Age of Darkness, this is early 2020. And I decided to make a book of all black paste paper. And so it's all black. So in the Age of Darkness, and I put little sayings or little things in between them, and the times you live in, you can't choose the times you live in. So whatever happens, happens. I did this book from sheets from the London Center for the Book Arts on the book titled Making Books. And I did a Coptic sewn and put some tools on it that I had copied and pasted them on. And it's kind of a recreation of the book I did earlier in the 90s on book repair tools. I was working in the preservation department repairing books. So I just love tools. So I would copy them and then put them on this book. And then the pages, I also copied the tools and tied them to the pages these are products that I make now, and I make paper balls, which I put on a small piece of, I use a small piece of styrofoam, and then I crunch up paper and attach it to that. So that makes those big, what I call paper bouquets. And I've also done flowers, and of course there's always the pencils, done hundreds of pencils. And then, ornaments and, just trying to figure out what to do with all these paste papers. So I've done paper mache bowls. The paste paper is on the inside and on the outside, and there are 7 layers in between of just plain paper. I cut the paper into triangles, and so I never know what the design is I'm going to get. And I also, what do I, oh, I also have made, I label them on the bottom, so they're all numbered, and I use diluted PVA, very diluted PVA. I don't use paste. I use very diluted PVA to adhere the paste paper and the other papers to the bowl. This is the process. You take a bowl, you put Vaseline on it, you put the first layer of paste paper on it, which will become the inside. And then I put 7 other layers of plain paper in between. I take the bowl out, because otherwise, if I wait until the end, I won't be able to get the bowl out. And then I put on four other layers, and then I'm done. This is another picture of just the triangles that I cut out to do that. Also had my papers licensed by Westminster Fibers onto cotton cloth. I think I did like 19 designs in 5 to 6 colorways each. My favorite, of course, is the dots. And I also worked with one of the women at 10 Women, and she sewed my my fabrics into masks. So made all those face masks. And I've also, my designs are on bags and all that kind of stuff too. This is a mask. This is another kind of mask, a paper mache mask, where I use up, again, scraps of my paste papers to make masks. This is a hat, Halloween hat, which I've done the same. And years ago, I did a fair amount of floor cloths. It's not paper, but I used my designs and I painted it onto canvas. I could not use methylcellulose because it would not hold. So I used matte medium mixed with acrylics and painted them onto canvas, and sold them through Napa Style and also through fairs and stuff like that. And this is the last but not least, I have a compilation of women's voices that I put on the backdrop of my paste papers. And that is the end of the slideshow. And how do I get back?
You cancel your screen share.
I stop. Nope.
Yep. Well, you're a little frozen, but I think that we're on the right track.
Okay. Oh, I know what I do. Let's see.
There you go.
Oh, sorry about that.
You're back. That's fine.
All right.
Thank you,
So
Marie.
how much do I have? A few more minutes?
You do. We do have some questions, but I know you're going to address them right now when you talk about materials.
All right. So I was just going to let you know what what kind of materials I use to make the paste papers. For years, I used the conservation Archivart methyl cellulose because it was pure and everything, but then they stopped making it. So right now, I use Elmer's paper mache art paste, and I also have this on my website too. But it's just a white powder. It works fine. It's ready to use within a few hours, although I usually let it set overnight just to make sure all the bubbles are out. But the thing I've liked about methyl cellulose is because it's easy. You just mix it with water and then it thickens up. And, you know, like I said, I let it sit overnight. So this is what I use. And as far as papers that I use, over the years, I've used just the same papers. Mohawk Superfine, 19 by 25. I've used that, and you know it works great. I've used eggshell finish. I've used smooth finish. It doesn't matter in that sense. So I've used just the paper itself, just the 80-pound tech paper. I also have used what I was talking about in the slideshow, that 80-pound text paper, 80-pound cover paper. It's a little heavier. I use that for some of my paper books, in my paste paper series books, where I just folded things over. This 80-pound text, I tried using Mohawk Superfine 80-pound text cover, or I'm sorry, 80-pound cover paper, and it didn't work. The paints didn't stay on there. So then I purchased this from Nina paper, and this works fine. I really like this kind, and I like also using tan lignin-free paper, or it's a 20 point or 10 point tan board. You can use file folders also, and you can get this at any art supply store. But I paint on this, and I use it for covers. I use it for sketchbooks, and rather than use the heavy gray board. So I've done a lot of books in this. I've also, going back to the Nina paper. I use this kind for years, and made these journals with it. It's a Heidi Kyle style, where you just fold it on itself, and then it creates a flexible, strong cover. So I've used that, but with doing Coptic sewn now, I've been using a lot of the gray, or a lot of the tan board, and I've just been putting paste paper on the other side of it. So that makes it pretty sturdy also. I like the soft covers to do that. So I think that's about all for now. Does anybody have any more questions?
There are a few questions, if you want to get into one attendee, Chris, is curious about methyl cellulose for paste papers, asking if it tends to be more fluid or dry more quickly than wheat paste.
It could be more fluid. It's not, I mean, wheat paste can be a little gloppy. So, but you just have to start decorating, and maybe the first few sheets will be a little wet, but you continue, and it really adheres well to the paper. What I like about it is, it does lay flat. All the paint is flat, it's a flat surface. So if you're doing crafts or books and you want to fold it around, it folds around perfectly. But I haven't had any problem in methylcellulose really being too diluted, where the design does not show up. Where if you put a comb through it, you don't get that comb feeling. So I haven't had a problem with that.
Okay, so you're aiming for not a very textured finish. You don't want something that's very thick, because then you would end up with glops that would crack off or otherwise be problematic in your
yes
finished
yeah
product.
yeah, exactly. And I can get the same depth as people that use the wheat paste.
Mhm.
I still get the depth from the methylcellulose.
And how can you give us an idea of how thick your methylcellulose is? I mean, I know that's comparing it to something.
It's like the thickness of heavy cream.
Okay. We have a question about what paints are best. I know you said acrylics. Do you have a particular brand or body?
I don't have a particular brand or body. I've just used everything. I've used Liquitex. I've used Golden. When I do papers for other people, and if I have to have a really deep red or something like that, I go with Golden. But if I'm just making papers per se, I'll use anything, Blick, and any of those acrylics. So I'm not picky in that sense.
Great. And do you use any fixative or anything, or are they just ready to go?
No, I've thought about that, and some people use paste wax and stuff like that, but I don't see a difference. And the acrylic does have some resistance to dirt and whatever. So no, I don't.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever work with colored sheets paper? Like a colored substrate?
Let's see, I shouldn't say never. No, the only colored is I decorate on the tan board, so you using just white or whatever, you know what you're going to get. If you use another, even on the tan board, if I use combs, I know that some of the background will be tan. So with white, I always know what I'm going to get.
Seems smart. All right, well, other than lots of compliments and about your calendars and the inspiration of looking at all of your designs, and might I say, in addition to your papers being amazing, I find it so inspiring to see all of the things that you have come up with. Because as you mentioned so many times, what do you do with it all? I mean, obviously you have to make the papers, and then what? So it was really fun to see all the ways you've figured out to put those things out into the world.
Great. If anybody has any other ideas, please let me know.
You've got a pile of paper just waiting to be used. Well, thank you so much, Marie, and for taking the time, and thank you everyone for joining us. We're happy to be back doing this on the first Thursday of every month again. I am fairly certain that next month's guest will be Ladyfingers Letterpress, Colorado Springs, Colorado, and that will be posted on a website and open for registration fairly soon. And this recording will be on the website within the week. So thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you again.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate you being here.